yeah, I think augmented reality is going to be the next thing. It's going to be suddenly it's going to be like happening in your living room, like these weird little holograms of like the characters showing up and being like, whoa, here they are. Yeah, like that'll be pretty interesting.
What movie would you guys want to be totally entrenched in?
Eyes Wide Shut. All right, fellas, here we go again. Another episode, and it's just the four of us this time. No guests. You know, it's been a while. It's been a minute, hasn't it, actually, since we've had just the four of us on here. It's like
so intimate.
Just so peaceful. Cody's got this intense stare going down on his screen. What are you doing down there?
Can't wait for this.
Oh no.
Cody's more excited than anything. Well, actually, we have a few episodes under our belt. There's some ones that we like, some of the ones that we don't really care for. But there was one that stood out to me that I thought was a really interesting conversation that we probably, if we had more time, we probably would have delved more into it. But it was the episode that we did with Ryan Cowden. We were talking about school, and he brought up a really interesting question about social media. And if back in the day, if we had social media, if it would have made creativity more difficult. Because we used to make videos all the time. You know, we weren't doing podcasting, but we were certainly making either short videos or movies. And now there's all this pressure with online, status. So I kind of want to delve more into that. So what do you guys think about technology these days? Do you think it's made people better or worse? Because there's obviously a lot of riffraff in the interwebs.
That is a loaded question, Dillon.
It is a loaded question. I want to see where we go. Who's got a thought? Bring the thoughts, guys.
Cody has 3 thoughts.
I have 3 thoughts. When you say better or worse, I just think it just made people immoral or more moral. More moral.
Be more moral. What do you think?
Moral.
Well, actually, here's a good statistic: is that they say that suicide rates for millennials has gone up, and a lot of that is attributed to social media. So, therefore, you could say that social media has made people, more suicidal, if you will. But that's not necessarily the case for everybody. Social media has made a lot of people, connect with, people they thought they would never see again. Like, there's an old joke we make about how high school reunions are irrelevant nowadays because you have Facebook. You can just see what your friends were doing, that you used to go to high school with, or elementary school or whatever, and you can keep in touch. Do you think the pros and cons?
I think it's interesting to think about why social media was created in the first place. Like, what was it intended to do? And like you said, Dillon, I think it was mainly intended just to connect everybody over the web easily. But like you said, I mean, why would that cause suicide rates to go up? I think a key factor in that would be because instead of it just being a medium for people to connect, I think it's turned into a way to focus more on yourself and your self-worth kind of thing. Like, how many friends do I have on social media? And then reading all the comments, why are these people saying this about me? And I have to find the best picture of me possible, and I have to edit it, and I have to Photoshop it, and I have to do all this stuff. Yeah. And it's turned into this weird, crazy, I need to be perfect. My profile needs to be perfect. I need to look perfect. And if I'm not actually the way that I look on that profile, that makes me feel bad.
Mm-hmm. You guys have seen those funny memes where they say the filter and no filter, and it's some ugly picture. It's that's very true in anything you do in social media. It's always this isn't the real version of who you are. This, we all know this. It's always this front you're putting up of, my life is great. I have it all together. Everything's great and wonderful. Here's the best version of me. But in reality, everybody's kind of going through the same struggles of life. Sometimes they get stressed, they get depressed. They're trying to lose weight, but they're always just showing no, I have it all together. I'm not a loser. I'm a winner, guys. I got it. And I think there's a lot of facade there that people just kind of feel like they're lacking something. They're actually no, I'm actually lying to myself, and that causes some disillusion. So maybe we should just get off the internet, guys.
Right now.
Yeah, the irony is that we're actually doing this via a live stream right now. So obviously there are some benefits, but I think we could easily make the argument we like doing this better in the same room. It's just, sometimes our schedules don't allow it. So It makes things more convenient, but I don't know. Luke, what do you think? What are your thoughts?
I disagree with everybody here. No.
I like the little sign behind you, by the way.
That's right. That's right.
Look, he's just getting... You paying that guy?
Yeah. Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor, yeah. No, I think that sign is actually from the Disney offices. I did not steal it, I promise.
You had somebody else steal it for you.
Yeah. No, I agree with Joel kind of. I think it's kind of turned into, especially like the social media aspects, it's turned into like a big game of keeping up with the Joneses, right? Like you're constantly comparing your life with all your friends, and like you said, everyone works really diligently to put their best foot forward on social media, which is really actually kind of funny because it's like nobody really cares.
Right.
Yeah. Everybody just spends a ton of time trying to manicure their profile and make sure all their pictures are good and all this stuff. And it's like you said, that none of that's real. Like nobody is as happy as they seem online. Right. Like it's impossible.
If my social media was like realistic or my Instagram was realistic, it would literally just be picture after picture of like Panda Express and like Netflix.
So you're pretty happy.
Over and over again. I'm ecstatic.
Super depressed.
But I don't look happy.
Exactly. It's like if I actually spent time like documenting my life on social media, it would be I woke up this morning, I got in the car, I went to work, I worked for 8 hours, and I went home, and then I watched some TV, and I did it all over again. Yeah, exactly. Like it is not that exciting.
4 hours of Duck Duck Goose.
Yes.
Just a random thing that was just in there.
By yourself.
Yeah.
Well, Cody, you had actually made this point in the when we were talking to Ryan about this, where you said like you would gladly post all the embarrassing videos we did as kids. Have you changed your opinion about that at all since we talked about that? Would you still do the same thing again and just post the opposite of what everybody else is doing? You just post the most embarrassing thing of yourself and just be who cares? You're usually probably the most different about that.
There's a limit to what I would. I mean, I'm probably more brave than the rest of you in terms of like what I would post from my childhood, because it's no longer like reflective of who I am now. Well, some of it's not. But there's some stuff that crosses the line that I wouldn't show. But
like what? Let's show it.
Well, I'm afraid that's been burned.
That footage no longer exists.
No, but it's funny that we're talking about the social media stuff, because I was just watching today randomly this guy named Simon Sinek, Sinek, and he was talking about this exact topic about depression and social media and all that stuff, and how like when you're little, like you only need approval from your parents, and then as you get older that shifts. Like when you're a teenager, you need approval now from your circle of friends,
your peers,
and you do things to get attention, and you'll text 10 people hi to get a response, because when you get a text message from someone else, like that releases dopamine in your brain, which is that feel good drug, and so like when you don't get that, you start feeling an emptiness and a sadness, and heaven forbid anyone unfriend you on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh no.
I will find them and I will hunt them down.
You look at the count on how many friends you have, and if that's one number lower than you remember it, like your soul is just crushed. You're like, I've lost all worth as a human being. So like,
people hate me. No, Cody, to add, so Simon Sinek, the guy that you're talking about, you're probably talking about the same interview that I'm thinking of. He has like one of the best talks on millennials in the workplace
Yep.
that I've ever heard.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's like spot on.
Yeah. So if you haven't heard of Simon Sinek.
Exactly.
So he touches on like the whole like millennials are entitled thing, but he goes into like why millennials like act entitled, and it's basically because of our parents. Like it's essentially like
I knew it.
It's like, I mean, yes, it's our fault and we have control over, our lives because we're all millennials, obviously. So like, we can be who we want to be, but like for the generation as like a macro thought, essentially like, and I think everyone kind of knows this now, it's kind of common knowledge, but like our parents traditionally coddled us, right? Like that's just how we grew up.
Yeah, you're special and you're a winner. That's what they tell you, right? Yeah.
Right, exactly. So we go into the workplace and we expect that same treatment. We want to be coddled. We want to be told we're special. We're awesome. Here's your raise. Here's your awesome fancy position, like right out the gate. It's like that doesn't happen in real life. Like
here's your good night kiss.
The people. What's that?
Here's your good night kiss.
Yeah, exactly. Like.
Lucky.
The generation before us like worked for 30 years and retired and like they worked from the bottom up and they understood that. But millennials as a whole, it's like they were never really taught those values of like you have to work for many years to get to where you want. And actually I could talk for days on this topic, but I heard another guy talk about like generations, like the different generations for marketing purposes. And actually studies have shown that millennials have actually split into two subsections. One of which is like the go-getter millennial, like the young professional, right? Like they started out entitled, but then they learned really quick, and then they're just kind of like they're on a great trajectory, right? And then there's the cliche entitled, like still living with mom millennial that nobody likes. Anyways,
except other millennials.
I live in Seattle, so I live hundreds of miles away from my mom, and I still call her and ask her what's for dinner every night.
And she ships it via eBay. She makes you pay for shipping.
At first I thought you didn't say ship, and I was like, that's weird, Cody.
I thought the same thing too. I was like, wait, what'd you say?
I shipped my pants.
Pay for
Exactly.
There's a funny, have you guys seen that commercial? There's a funny, like, I forget if it's like Walmart or something, but there's a funny commercial that has, it's that shtick.
Yeah.
I shipped my drawers.
Yeah. I shipped my pants.
Well, those businesses, I was at Caro's this past weekend for some weird reason.
Are you serious?
What?
Yeah, Caro's.
Cody's depressed.
Caro's?
Cody's depressed.
Dude,
Caro's has been closed for years.
No,
We're sitting in an abandoned building.
You're thinking of Coco's.
Sorry.
Caro's, it's not as good as I remember, like the last 5 times I've been.
when was it ever good though?
Dude, get their big breakfast. It's called Big Breakfast.
Cody, I think you were at someone's house and you weren't invited.
You're right. It was the neighbors. I broke in. What are you guys having? Steak?
Big breakfast?
Big breakfast.
This is a nice Caro's.
Every breakfast item you can think of, they give it to you, and it's really good. But I got a burger there this last time. It was like, I could tell the meat was frozen. It was total crap. But anyway, on the way out, I saw a sign that said, bathroom for customers only. And then I thought, what if they charged for non-customers to use the bathroom?
Yeah. They could turn a profit that way. It makes more sense.
Yeah, like a coin-operated commode.
If you're not a paying customer.
That's so tacky though, right? Like if you go into a place, it's like there's like a vending machine apparatus on the door. It's like
put a coin in.
I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to.
There's like a code, like you have to like know how to break code to get in the door.
You have to do JavaScript to open the door.
Yeah. 10110.
Well, is there any technology you guys, like if we're talking about the user experience, is there any technology you guys just can't wait for them to perfect this? Is there anything that, I mean, obviously there's a lot of things that we wish, like, I wish teleportation was a thing, but I don't know if that's even physically possible, or that's just like
Well,
wishful thinking.
You can't perfect what's
think-
not done yet.
Yeah. Well, like something like
think-
like automatic cars is a perfect example. I can't wait for them to perfect that, because that means we probably will have very little to no traffic. It's
Right.
Or people won't even own cars
And less
anymore.
accidents.
Yeah, less accidents. You don't have to worry about DUIs anymore. It's just, here you go.
Right.
You can just drink all you want, drive home, or have the car drive you home. And I just can't wait for that. Like, that's the thing. I'm like, come on, Elon Musk, you can do it.
I think VR is obviously like up and coming as well. I mean, it's obviously just like they're making, new advancements every year, but I mean, not just like in the video game world, but like that can be expanded into pretty much any industry you want. I was just thinking like, how cool would it be? And I know they kind of have this already, but how cool would it be taking like an anatomy class and just putting on goggles and literally being able to like dissect a body just like right in front of you without like touching anything? It would make my life way easier taking anatomy classes.
You taking a lot of anatomy classes?
I had to hunt down my cadavers. They
I
weren't
had to dig some
cadavers,
graves.
but they became
still
cadavers.
alive. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna get like real like Greenpeace liberal here, guys.
Get off.
How do you mute Luke?
No, I can't wait till they improve or perfect like renewable recycling. Renewable energies like like solar and stuff like that. Because it's like right now, I think I heard somewhere that solar panels, like as advanced and as long as we've had solar panels, they're only like 10 or 20% efficient or something. Like it's a tiny amount, right? Like, so there's a lot of room for improvement. And it's like, can you imagine out of all, like half the houses in my neighborhood have solar panels. If you went from 20% to like even 40% or like 50%, that's a crazy huge like boost in clean energy. Like it's just going to be insane.
Yeah, because that's the problem right now, because they're so inefficient. Like you need so much surface area to make it feasible to power anything you want. I mean, that's why they have those huge acres and acres in like Nevada just filled with like solar panels. It's just because it just takes up so much space, and they just like, all right, let's put it in the desert where there's nothing for miles.
Right.
Yeah, I think it'd make the like costs would go down on a lot of things. Like you said, renewable energy is just obviously the path. I think we need to take that forward.
And it's not even a political statement. Like I could care less. It's a statement of like being efficient.
Right. Absolutely.
Like I hate the idea of waste in general.
I don't understand why it is even become a political statement. Like it's a new
stupid
technology. Like this is the market we're talking about. Let's go towards whatever the new technology is, and like let's make jobs in that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I agree.
It's ridiculous.
Cody, what about you? What's your fantasy technology?
Seriously, like the thing I wish they would perfect is just the standard desktop computer. From crashing. Like when I'm working at a computer, like I don't want the application to crash ever.
I knew using a Windows 95.
I knew exactly that's where this was going to go. As soon as you said that, I was like, I know exactly where he's going.
I think you're a weird case.
Huh?
I think you're a weird case though, because like most people don't render entire movies on their home computer.
Well, they should start.
Like 24/7.
Not even that. It's just basic things. I don't know. It seems so. How come we can put like a man on the moon, but like we can't make any application that never crashes? That just doesn't make sense.
The amount of times I have seen Cody lose it over his computer crashing, it is for the first 5 seconds it's kind of scary, but after that it's hysterical because
you haven't seen the worst.
I want a story, Cody.
Ridiculous.
I want the story of the worst time you've just lost it.
Oh, I'll give you the story of the worst time. I'll totally embarrass myself.
You told me about. I know exactly the story. You told me about. I was like, this is.
I was up in my room. Okay. Of course, my computer crashed. I had worked for 6 hours straight on this one shot, and it crashed, and I lost 6 hours worth of work. And I got so frustrated, I threw my pen at my monitor and cracked the monitor. And half the screen was black, and it's missing. I said, well, I've already broken the screen. I might as well finish it off. So I full on punched the monitor into the wall. And I cut my knuckles on the monitor glass, and I had blood dripping down my fist. And then I punched my chair, and I twisted my wrist.
Dude. I think...
And I blacked out because I punched it wrong. So I fell in the hallway in the fetal position.
Oh my God.
Dude. I don't like, in a battle between you and your computer, I think your computer won.
It did. There was a whole lawsuit and everything.
Took you to court over that.
I don't think you passed out because you punched your chair wrong. I think you passed out because not enough blood got to your heart. You were so enraged.
Cody has the ability to push all of his blood to his extremities.
Dude, I have a problem.
Pure rage.
I felt like I was just robbed. It was the equivalent of like someone robbing you on the street. It's the most infuriating thing. Like, 6 hours of your life? Oh, I'll just go ahead and take that. Oh, and there's no way you're getting it back either. Mm-hmm. Like, that's my Saturday. There you go. Son of a gun.
When we're talking about directions you want to see things go in, there's certain technologies that I do not want to see it go in a certain direction, even though I know it's going in that certain path. Joe, you had mentioned VR as the thing that's up and coming that's like going to be exciting. I think augmented reality is pretty cool. We're already seeing like the first phase of it where it's like you actually see like almost like a hologram, if you will. It's like, oh, here it is. We can actually mold it and everything like that. But when we get to the Matrix or like Ready Player One stuff, where there's a whole like internet that's an actual digital world that you can like exist in, that scares me, because that to me is the end game. This is like doomsday scenario, because that's when you literally will see people totally disengaged from reality. They will spend most of their time in that world, and then like the economy is going to start tanking. Suicide rates will probably start going up even more. People literally will starve to death by being in that world. Because like my proof is, remember when World of Warcraft was like at its peak and people were literally dying because they were playing it all the time? Now imagine if that was your life. Like you could actually exist in that actual world. That to me, I'm like, people are going to be killed off in droves.
I honestly, I mean, I agree that is obviously a concern and completely plausible, but I think that's almost like already here. You hear stories all the time of like families taking their kids camping and their kids are just on their tablets the entire time.
Yeah.
Like they might as well just be in the living room. Like what's the point of even going camping?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's like
Ready
if we could do
One,
this,
man.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's exactly like Ready Player One or like The Matrix, where why would you want to exist in the real world when you can live in the fantasy world wherever you want? And I see that we're already in that kind of phase, but there is still that layer of there's a screen here. There's like this barrier, but once we cross that barrier, I feel like there's no going back. Like that, you can never go back to that experience, and you're going to want to exist there. That's where you will want to be, and that's what scares me. It's like
I would like to drive the DeLorean though.
We can do that in the real world too.
I have driven the DeLorean. It's horrible.
It's horrible.
Luke actually has done that. I forgot.
Yeah, it's a terrible car.
Okay, fine. I would like to be Luke driving the DeLorean.
You can't handle it. You couldn't handle it. Oh, I was just going to say, there are some that say we are already in the Matrix. Blew your mind.
Yeah. We talked about this in, I think, the episode with Matt about the Elon Musk, Joe Rogan thing, the simulations. Like, are we actually in a simulation? It's possible. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe we are. Might be already dead.
The whole argument for that theory is there is no argument against it, basically, right?
You can't.
Well, there can't be. Mm-hmm. It's just like there's no argument against. There are leprechauns. You can't not prove that there are leprechauns.
Yeah, it's possible. I think it's just like I don't know what we get out of it if say we are, just for the sake of argument. Now what? What do we do about it? Like, what are we supposed to do? Like, I figure out
how to become the one.
It's true.
Duh.
You can take on the Smiths and the agents, fight them all.
Luke found out how to become the one, and he's like, you know what? The first thing I'm going to do is join the Cousin podcast.
He was forced.
He was forced by Mr. Smith.
Well, is there any technology you guys are scared of? Like, do you think the Terminator is going to come around and start shooting us up? Do you think the Boston Dynamics robots that we're seeing them doing, like the somersaults, like those things are like, well, matter of time. Black Mirror for real. It's gonna happen.
Isn't that another concern that Elon Musk has, is the dangers of AI and like how far we want to take it?
I think that's like every advanced person, every person of that status, like Bill Gates and all the people high up that do with technology, like the pioneers of it, they're all saying the same thing. It's going to kill us.
Right.
We're all dead.
Well, it's a matter of giving, it's empowering technology to make its own decisions, and depending on what responsibilities they have, if they're any responsibilities that could potentially harm humans, yeah, that's a concern. Because if they're able to make any decision they want with whatever tools that they have, it's like that could be a problem.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is like the people, and this kind of goes along with other technology that has been thought of and then come out later. So like, for example, cell phones, like Star Trek, like the original Star Trek had their little communicators or whatever. Like they basically invented the concept of like the cell phone, right? Before like cell phones were even a thing. And that show had like multiple versions of that same thing.
iPhone 8.
iPhone 8. They came out with the iPhone 8.
That was episode 12, I think.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, like, for AI, like, there are, like, several stories have come out, like, fiction writers and stuff like that have come out with, AI and their, whatever, science fiction stories. And all of them, or not all, I don't know all of them, but the ones that I've read and the ones that I've heard of all come out with a there's like a law that's like hard coded into all of their AI, right? So like there's like 3 laws of AI, and it's like never harm a human, like always do good, and something else, I don't know. But it's like those authors have pretty much already solved it. Like if we ever like go to like fully automated AI, it's like just like put in these laws. Like you can't break these laws,
I think there needs to just be like a master kill switch somewhere. Like a certain type of, either it's a EMP or a certain type of thing where it's like kill switch. They're all like, even the good ones, sorry, starting over. They took over and nothing to do about it.
It's like that joke in The Office where Dwight like draws a robot for like Michael or something, and he's like, look, I gave him like an 8-foot extension cord just in case he tries to turn on us.
Yeah. He can't move more than 8 feet. Yeah, just a giant on-off switch.
Cody, do you think if you punch your computer more, it will actually turn against you at some point?
I hope so. I want a good fight, so.
I think it already has turned against him.
It actually won that battle, so.
Yeah.
I actually, that right after that happened, I went on eBay and bought another monitor.
Made you pay for another one.
Maybe pay for another one. $800.
So Cody, out of all the fights that you've had with your computers, you're 0-1 pretty much. You have lost. You haven't won anything.
I know.
I broke a mouse one time.
Okay.
I think I won that one. But that was pretty easy. It's a mouse.
It's like that scene from The Office where you just took it out with a bat and just in a field and just started pounding it to death.
What if there was like a secret security camera in my house, and like we watched back the tape of that day, and like it was actually the monitor leaping at me, and I was like trying to fight for my life.
Just scared to
it's
death.
Alive.
Well, it's going to be a bold new world wherever we end up going. And Cody, this one's for you because this has been on my mind a lot lately. You were the person that got me into this. Do you think that Bitcoin is going to change the world? Oh no, I said it, guys. I said it.
Sore subject.
Now look at
frown.
Cody, let's hear your thoughts. Do you think that Bitcoin is going to change the world?
I think it already has to some degree.
Why are you making that face?
This is what it does to me.
I want to hear the strongest argument for Bitcoin. Go, Cody, go.
It's a decentralized
Sell the
currency.
world.
Solve the world. It's a decentralized currency where you don't have to rely on a third party, like the bank, to manage your funds. So there you go.
Well, the biggest argument against that is that eventually it will have to be regulated. Eventually, there's going to be some sort of intervention somewhere with the government's coming in saying, no, it can't be worth this much. You can't do that. Then what?
Well, I mean, they try to regulate, beer, prohibition, alcohol. People still did it. If it's a currency of the people and, people, it started out, with a bad rap because it was being used to buy drugs online with like Silk Road and drug dealers and stuff like that. But I think it's more so being used for good things and store value. And people are saying it's more valuable than gold because it's more scarce. And that's what gives its value is scarcity. And everything, like anything that has value like cash or any currency is because we say it has value. And that's the same thing with Bitcoin. It's not universally accepted yet. It's getting there. It's growing over time. So
yeah. Do you see the government like or sort of intervening and just putting regulation, but allowing the technology?
I think so. I think because the technology behind it is so revolutionary. They don't want to hold it back from growing.
You're talking about blockchain, right?
Yeah, blockchain. Yeah.
So banks are looking to adopt that technology because it's so secure. Like it's essentially unhackable.
Right.
So like for transferring funds and things of that nature, big banks are looking at that as well, which is a positive. But I will say, and sorry to cut you off, Cody, but the last thing I heard about Bitcoin is it actually costs more in energy to mine it than gold. So like you could go out and rent an excavator or buy an excavator and go and mine gold, and it would be a better deal than mining Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right. I think maybe in the short term that's the case, but like say you mine it and it is expensive, it's an investment. And so like the theory is that over time, you've maybe lost out in the short term, but in the long term, as more is mined, like the value is going to rise. So whatever you mined, today for an expensive price will be, nothing, in 10 years or so.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like an upfront cost. It's like an initial investment.
Right. The more I learn about Bitcoin, the more scared I get about the future, just because it does seem like I've told you this before, Cody, that it comes down to a simple choice. It's either it's a fad or it's not. It's one of the two. And like, is it going to be here long term, or is it just going to be here for a while and go away? Is it like the tulip craze that happened in Australia? Is it like that whole thing? Is it just a bubble that's just going to burst? Maybe it already did burst. But all I know is that even if you look at the numbers today, as much as it's fallen over the last several months to a year, it's been around at the time of this recording. It's been about 5-6 years now, and from the time it was first launched to where it is today, it's up to today, even including the downfall it's had, up 50,000% in 5 years. If you made an investment and you get 50,000% back on that investment, that's a good investment. That's insane. That's like, I don't think I've ever heard of a stock doing that well. Maybe there's some out there, but just unheard of.
It's a whole new asset class.
Yeah. And again, maybe it won't repeat those numbers. I don't know. I'm not necessarily advocating for it here, but it just comes down to like, do you think it's actually going to be something that we'll see long term? I think we will. I think it will be around. How big it will grow, I don't know. Nobody knows.
I think there's one kind of big flaw in Bitcoin and any sort of like e-currency. And and I like it's totally fixable. It just like I don't know what the workaround is, but the whole like one of the big appeals of Bitcoin and other currencies like it are that it's total the anonymity. Like your name is not tied to any purchase that you make with it, and like that just to me like that just like totally lends itself to like black market purchases left and right. Like
right.
Yeah.
That's where
like,
the regulation would come in.
Right.
Yeah.
Like what else are you going to use that for?
Right.
You know, like, so I don't know. That's like the only thing that's,
It's a little sketchy.
yeah, that regulation, like you said, that regulation is going to have to come at some point and say
Right.
like, no, you have
Yeah.
to tie your name to it.
If it's going to have legs and go the distance and be around for, you know, ever or for a super long time, it's going to have some type of regulation that comes in probably for it to intervene. But
Yeah, and I think that's the part that scares me is that it's going to go through so many different evolutions in different phases, but I don't see it going away, and it's just going to be a very revolutionary way of how people trade money and how people store money. And it's like, how's that all going to work? And how are we going to make that transition? You know, are banks just going to become obsolete? Like, what's going to happen? And again, the more and more I learn about it, I'm like, wow, man, this is a pretty crazy time. But it's also kind of exciting. Like,
Yeah, I don't think it's not like it's going to replace the dollar. I think it'll work alongside the dollar. Of course, because the dollar is subject to inflation and the value of the dollar is going down significantly like every year. So the money you're earning today is not going to be worth the same amount next year this time. It's going to be worth less. So with Bitcoin, it maintains, you know, something like that with some more scarcity. It's more immune to inflation when you have a finite amount that can ever exist in the entire world. So there can only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. So you think about that, it's pretty crazy when there's 8 billion people on the planet and only 21 million Bitcoin. That means it's impossible for every person in the world to have one whole Bitcoin.
right, everybody's going to have fractions.
So
Right.
Cody, what's that based off? Like, what is that 21 million based off of?
The original creator, I don't know why it's that amount, but there's only 21 million that can ever exist in the entire world. There will never be more than that. So that's why the value of it is so high, is because, you know, people buy it and there's only 21 million. So, you know, that's why it's $6,000 right now for one. And, you know, of course, the more scarce something is, the more in demand it is, the value just goes up. It's kind of like real estate. You know, if you have a finite amount of real estate and billions of people want to live in that spot, the price is going to skyrocket because it's just supply and demand.
I was gonna bring up, this is kind of going backwards on the subject, but we were talking about VR, and I just thought of something interesting topic that we didn't discuss, which is watching movies. You know, especially like I'm thinking of like James Cameron, where he thinks like everything's going in far of like the audience experience. You know, obviously right now it's just, you know, in 2D and also in 3D. Do we see, or do you guys see potentially in the future it going to even further, like VR movies, or just like
heck yeah.
the experience just getting more and more advanced, where you're like, it's not even, you know, you can't even recognize like the old way of doing it. It's just like this totally new experience.
I hope
Yeah,
so.
I think that's good. I mean, that's the natural course, right? Like, the more real something gets, it's like eventually it's just going to be okay. You can immerse yourself in said world, and you can't tell a difference. Like,
Right.
You're just
speaking of AI, you could, I mean, potentially you could even like talk to the characters yourself and like have a conversation with like Neo or whoever the heck the character is, and they would, you know, respond back. Yeah, that's crazy to think about though.
And the weird thing is that's not that far off. Like,
Right.
Could be in our lifetime.
It's not that far off to think about like putting on VR goggles and really not being able to tell the difference.
Right.
like at first glance.
Now,
Yeah.
my a question that would follow. Dylan, go ahead. Gosh dang it.
Oh boy.
No, my 2 cents was just going to be like, I think the end game is what I said before, which is it's literally Ready Player One or The Matrix. Like, that's the end game. But the middle in between, I think, is where your question is, Joel. Like, where are we going to go before we get to that? I'm not 100% sure. I think we're going to move more towards the Netflix and more just stuff like here in your house. So I don't know how they're going to integrate that into the home theater experience. But I think we will get more. We will start to see more of the augmented reality. I don't know about so much of the interaction piece yet. I could see that coming next, but yeah, I think augmented reality is going to be the next thing. It's going to be suddenly it's going to be like happening in your living room, like these weird little holograms of like, the characters showing up and being like, "Whoa, here they are!" Yeah, like that'll be pretty interesting. Anyway, that was
what movie would you guys want to be totally entrenched in?
Eyes Wide Shut.
Mrs. Doubtfire.
Boogie Nights for sure.
Yeah.
Unfaithful.
That one scene in Titanic.
The ship sinking.
The ship's
I can just imagine myself watching that movie and I just see Luke in the background. Excuse me, I'm gonna squeeze in here.
I want my own boat.
I want my own boat, dang it.
Women, children, and Luke.
Just totally change the script. I built this boat. No, you did. Yes, I did.
This is
built
my
my own
life
boat.
raft.
I built it in craft class.
Luke goes up and he's like,
papier-mâché.
"I'm a child. I am a child."
I'm a
I am a
child.
child.
I'm a child. I'm with child.
I'm with child.
I'm with a child.
I have a bun in the oven.
I have no argument. You guys are totally right.
That's exactly what it would be. All right, y'all. I think we're out of time, but this is a good conversation. I think we did good defense to our millennial brethren out there that gets a lot of flack these days. You know, the ones that, you know, the entitled ones. We can't speak for those people that feel entitled, but I think every generation has a bit of the entitlement folk in them. But I think our generation's doing pretty well for itself. Got some flaws, just like any other generation, but I think we have a bright future. But we're all going to die by technology.
I said let them die. Let them rot.
All right, cool. Well, everybody else out there, thank you guys for watching. Of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can check us out on SoundCloud and iTunes to listen to this episode and other episodes that we have. If you don't want to check out that, if you're just online talking about social media, we are on Facebook. We are on Instagram and Twitter and a whole bunch of other stuff. I found out that people post this show on other websites. It's happening.
Really?
People just do, yeah. People are doing it.
Weird.
Wow.
I guess it's working out. But anyway, you can just find us anywhere on the interwebs. And but until then, I guess we'll just see you guys next week, and we look forward to talking to you then.
Peace out.
See ya.